Well, hello, Beth Ann Shaeffer. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I want to welcome you to the Living Undeterred podcast. I am Jeff Johnston, and I'm very excited for our guest today and welcome all those that are watching or listening today. This is a journey I started a little while ago, and I think this is my fifth podcast. And I am super excited. I came across Beth Ann on LinkedIn, and I saw what she was talking about, and I said, there has to be a story behind what she's doing right now. And I reached out to her, and we talked, and I said, okay, let's just talk about what you're doing and kind of how it started, and we'll navigate as we go. But you are the president, founder, visionary, CEO, bill payer, marketer. The big cheese there with Nope Beverages. And full disclosure for me, Beth Ann, I had never had an alt cocktail prior to meeting you. My experience with non-alcoholics was simply non-alcoholic beer. That's all I ever drank. And your item came up, and I thought, interesting, clicked on it. So what I think I would like to do first is hear a little bit about you, and then we'll talk about what an alternative cocktail is, and then we'll just talk and see where this goes. But if you want to hold on a second, I gotta get a beverage here, so just hold on a second.
Uh-oh.
Wow, this is awesome. This is the jalapeno. Mango margarita with jalapeno. That was a shameless plug for No Beverages, by the way. So
We'll take a plug.
very, very tasty. Even at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it's tasty. So anyway, tell me a little bit about Beth Ann and why I had you on my show, I guess.
Okay, how far back do you want me to go?
As far back as you want to go. We have an hour, so fire away.
Okay, you stop me if it's getting too long, but I'm originally from a small steel town in Pennsylvania, Sharon, Pennsylvania. And my family, they were all steel workers, very hardworking, blue-collar family. I went to college at Edinburgh University with a teaching degree, a dual major in special education and regular education, which is what brought me to Maryland. I became a teacher, moved down here in 1998. And then became an assistant principal, which I loved. I loved being in a school. I loved working with children, especially with children with special needs. Got married to Bart, and then had children. I had 5 children. So we had 5 children. My twins, who are now 13, my oldest, were diagnosed with autism. So for me, it didn't really make sense for me to go back to work, because I was a special ed teacher, and I really wanted to be in charge of their education and their rehabilitation. So that, long story short, 10 years of therapies and having babies. And then, Bart was the one going to work and providing us with a lovely home and the money to afford all of these rehabilitations. And I used to say that I woke up one morning and got out of this baby haze and looked at my husband and realized that he was a raging alcoholic who also had an addiction to cocaine. But, it wasn't that I woke up and noticed it. It was, things that in my life, those 10 years that Bart was exhibiting, that you just get used to, and they become part of your everyday, and they become part of your norm. And then that's when I woke up and said, this is not normal. We went to counseling, we went to couples therapy, we went to families therapy, but nothing really was helping us heal as a family, because the bigger thing that we needed to change was we needed to help Bart get into recovery. So we had a family intervention, and on July 7th, Bart went into rehab in 2017, and he is now 3.5 years sober.
Wow, that's awesome, Beth Ann.
It is.
we're 5 minutes into this, and you've already bared your soul. And I'll be honest with you, that was my initial attraction to your story, was the fact that you're comfortable, as I am. People that know me and follow my story, I talk about what I went through at length, and I think your vulnerability to me adds a lot of credibility, I guess, to what you're doing. You know, the reason why you're creating non-alcoholic drinks isn't just to make money. Ultimately, I have a strong feeling that will happen for you. But right now you're driven by another purpose. And sometimes the best ideas come from that type of a genesis, or that type of an inspiration. So I had a chance to talk to Bart with you in the past, and I'm floored of how honest and authentic you are. And people watching this are thinking, wow, this is amazing. I can't wait to hear about all the beverages you have. But I think the fact that you're able to talk about this, did it take you guys a long time to open up and publicly be able to have these conversations?
Yes, in several ways. The first way was that, what goes on to me in a marriage is very private. And, people have disagreements. You have your highs and your lows. And I was always raised that you deal with that in your home. What I needed to grasp was that when it comes to addiction, you can't do it on your own, and there is no shame in it. And I needed help. I needed the support of his family and my family to get out of this dark hole that we were in. Now for Bart, what was hard for him was pre-rehab was that he didn't have a problem. He was in denial.
Right.
He really never reached that surrender stage where he was kind of throwing in the towel and saying, oh my God, please help me. Like, I can't drink at 9 a.m. I can't drink with my kids in the car.
Right.
He did get to that point eventually, but I think I'm answering your question. But
yeah.
Oh, this was the thing with Bart. The first year was very sensitive in his recovery, where we didn't talk about it at all. He didn't want anyone in the community to know. It was almost like he was embarrassed and ashamed of it. Now, 3.5 years in, he is helping others who are struggling, and he's very vocal and proud of what he has done. And I'm hoping that we can get him here to talk about it with you, because I think he has a really great story to tell.
He does, and hearing your stories are inspiration for me. People ask me, where do I get my inspiration? It's this living undeterred mindset that I've kind of stumbled into. I didn't really ask to do this; it just kind of happened. I'm just meeting people. I'm meeting people every day, as you are, and so is Bart. That you just say, wow, I'm not in a canoe by myself out in the middle of the ocean. I'm in this huge boat with literally millions and millions of human beings, not just in the United States, that are struggling with substance abuse, alcohol abuse, addiction, mental health, ADD, bipolar, schizophrenia, all these things that are out there. How do we progress and get and improve the well-being of our lives? And that's what motivates me, and that's where I came up with this living undeterred mindset. And I just keep I'm amazed of the people I'm meeting. And so going back to your story a little bit, I know you and I have talked quite a bit about kind of how this alt cocktail idea popped in your head. We know now the reason why, but tell me about in your kitchen when you guys are talking about, hey, what do you want to have a drink for the Super Bowl? And you're like, I don't know. It's like you told me one time you were making all these cocktails and said, wait a minute, there's got to be an easier way to make a beverage for my husband that is non-alcoholic, but it gives him the feeling socially that he's having an alcoholic beverage.
So how that started was the first year of sobriety. Bart was never had a sweet tooth because he always had the urge to drink instead. So he constantly wanted to suck on or chew on candy, and we had closets full of flavored seltzer waters. But we still had to participate in family birthdays, family holidays, going to cocktail parties. and special events. And when you go to those, I think everybody knows when you go and you're not drinking, you are offered a club soda with a splash of cranberry
Right.
and a lime.
Right.
And, I know that firsthand because I was pregnant and I have 5 children and that was my only option. So that frustrated me to no end, that people are trying to make a healthy choice, and it was almost like a slap in the face, like, this is all I get. So I started to try to support Bart by making these homemade drinks. And it required fruit and herbs and seltzers. And I was happy to do it, but it was a lot of work with prep time and soaking and muddling and straining. And I'm somebody who loves to be in the kitchen, and I love doing those things, but I also have 5 kids. I also have to
Right.
put a good meal on the table, and I couldn't understand why there wasn't something that was easier.
Right.
So one Christmas when Bart was over, that was really important for me that night for him to have something celebratory because it was his first Christmas sober.
Right.
And to be perfectly honest, when you are married to an alcoholic, it's not rosy. And there was a lot of anger on both ends. And for me, that was my way of supporting Bart, was to, I'm more of an action versus a word kind of gal.
Right.
So my action was providing him these drinks. And when we were cleaning up after Christmas Eve, I said, this is a pain in the ass. This is so much work. It was more work than the meal because you have 25 people in your house and you're constantly making these. I think I'm going to can them.
Right.
And then, most of the time, Bart, I would get an idea because I was very anxious to go back to work and kind of roll his eyes. But this one, he's like, there's something to this. There is nothing else out there except for the NA beers. So in 2019 is when I started our LLC and then kind of just took off running. Had to stop for a water break because of COVID, and then changed our direction. But that's how we became an alt tail.
What's interesting to me, and maybe you can talk a little bit about, but a lot of people have these ideas. They're in their kitchen. They say, wow, I got this idea, but they don't go to the next level. Were you hesitant? Were you nervous? Were you scared? Or you're like, you know what? I'm just going to start knocking down walls and this thing's going to be great. I mean, as an entrepreneur, which I envy, or I am one, but I appreciate that. Did you have a lot of hesitation to start this thing?
Yes and no. I mean, I'm a doer. I always say less talk, more action. That has just always been the way that I am. So I was so highly motivated. I was very aware of what I knew and what I didn't know. I was a teacher. I don't have a finance background. Mm-hmm. So I put together an advisory board that could kind of guide me into making the right decisions. And I think with all entrepreneurs, there's days where you're just like, yes, this is it, that we're going for it. And then there's other days where you wake up and think, shit, why did I ever think this was a good idea? So
and that never goes away, by the way.
Right. And then that's fleeting, that goes away. And then you look back at your product and your mission and you're like, no, I'm doing the right thing. You're just going to have those days. So I did have those days. But luckily, through Bart's process of becoming sober, you learn that you have to surround yourself by good people, good friends that support you, whether it was him in supporting his sobriety or me supporting my dream to have alt cocktails. And, I had some people look at me thinking, oh, she's a stay-at-home mom who just wants a hobby. And that's not what this is at all. So, yeah, I did have those scary moments. I still do. We're online. We are really kicking butt in sales. And I still, you constantly want to improve. So I do have those moments where I'm thinking, what the hell did I get myself into? But I love it.
Yeah, I think just as an NA beer drinker, I've watched the O'Douls explode now to all these tremendous options, IPAs, wheats, all these things. And again, I think you're kind of at the cutting edge of the alt cocktail market where, again, there's not a lot of options out there. I'm sure you're going to have people will jump in and start trying to copy what you're doing, but
Yeah.
that's okay. That's capitalism at its best.
Hmm.
But when you talk about the brand, the products that you have, I have a couple here. This is the strawberry basil. Okay. And then I have the one I'm drinking now, the mango margarita with jalapeno. Now, when I first got this in, we did a little taste test down in my basement with some of my son's college friends. So these are college people, and that may be a market niche that you're kind of go after. Maybe you potentially are going after, but they were very hesitant of the jalapeno initially, just because they thought it was going to be super spicy and hot. It's 1:30 right now almost in Iowa, and I'm drinking the jalapeno, and I don't think it's overly spicy or hot. My personal favorite is the rosemary vanilla lemonade. That's the one I had at the Super Bowl or watching the Super Bowl. So you have four, right? Four.
I do.
Okay. Do you mind giving a quick little 30 seconds or a minute on each one, kind of what the idea was behind it, and do you plan on expanding to having more options?
Absolutely. I actually have 8 flavors.
Oh.
Yeah, we did a lot of research and development. We were in many local bars and restaurants in the Annapolis, DC, Baltimore area. When I was a teacher, that doesn't pay the bills. So I waitressed and bartended a lot for many, many years in this area. So they would allow us to come in, even though we were non-alc drinks, and people would do samplings. We'd get their feedback on taste, and the mango margarita was one. We also did Survey Monkeys that people just thought, oh, we're not interested in that, and that is now our biggest seller. But how we came to those, the strawberry basil smash and the raspberry lime ginger beer were the first 2 that I started making at home, just because the ingredients were very accessible, and I don't know, we just kind of leaned toward that. And then I just started slowly, just for variety, started making them at home. And the way I chose the first 4 were, we had some not that all of them are not strong flavors, but there were some that were more preferred than others. So we made sure to put some strong ones in with our first release, and we have some really strong ones that are coming out hopefully this summer.
And it looks like there's not a lot of calories. One full can is very doable. No fat, no sodium. Carbs are good. So it looks like the ingredients are pretty healthy. And I like your presentation of the can. I think that's very eye-catching. Whoever was in charge of your marketing there did a good job. And so right now, I know social media and online is probably where most of your emphasis is. I know in the alcohol industry, as of March of last year, alcohol sales online were up 400%. Now, that says that's great for those people selling it. It also says there's a lot of people out there stuck at home that want to buy their alcohol through online. So do you see yourself, I know ultimately you'd love to be in the shelf space having a lot of that, but do you think for the time being this will be your biggest emphasis is the online presentation or sales approach?
For now, yes. We could easily be in local bars and restaurants, but in Maryland, where we are, people are having to cap how many patrons they have in their restaurants and bars, and to me, it just felt like kicking some of those mom and pop shops while they were down. They're trying to keep alive, and then for me to say, hey, I'm a startup and I really want you to keep a case or 2. So we are e-commerce. Will always do. Right. Distribution in bars and restaurants is something that we're also pursuing, but where we really see ourselves being successful is in grocery. So, those that we are also having a lot of talks about that. That was something that we were planning to do last spring, but of course, people were only looking for toilet paper back then. So and because the non-alcoholic segment is so new outside of the beer, there's a lot of product education that needs to go with it. So we're best placed on a grocery shelf where you might stop and pick up the can and look at it and really investigate it. Some people pick it up because of the branding or the combination of flavors. So that's actually, we do want to see ourselves there. That is our end game.
So a question I have for you that I know you and I have talked a few times, I've never asked you this question. When I gave up I made the choice to not drink alcohol little over 3 years ago, I talked to some people that were going through Alcoholics Anonymous, the 12-step process, which I never did, and personally, I'm not a big fan of that. I didn't need that. Just for me, I didn't need that. I found enough internal things with what happened in my life that was enough motivation for me. Do you get pushback from people in those 12-step systems, the Alcoholic Anonymous world, that say, no, this is too close to alcohol? You're just gonna. It's a little bridge to somebody getting back to drinking. Because I had some people initially that said, Jeff, you either drink or you just don't even tempt yourself. And I enjoy non-alcoholic beverages. I really, really like them. And I don't feel like for me, I'm gonna all of a sudden say, well, I'm gonna go crack open a beer now. It's like, do you ever get any pushback from people that this will get alcoholics to start drinking again?
No, I don't get that. I have heard many people say non-alcoholic beer is for non-alcoholics because it's a substitute for beer. It's meant to taste just like beer. Mm-hmm. I have not heard that with us because we are so different than what's out there. And we have 8 flavors, and I think 3 of them do, like the margarita. It tastes like a margarita. We have a mojito coming out that tastes like a mojito. But one of the things that was important to us was that we didn't want to advertise ourselves as being a mocktail. Mock is pretending to be a cocktail. We wanted people to have an alternative to a cocktail. So that's why we made sure to put together complex flavors that you might never see in a cocktail, like your favorite, the rosemary vanilla lemonade.
Oh, yeah.
I see those, something similar like rosemary lavender, on brunch menus all the time that are not meant to have alcohol in them. So that was important for us to make sure that we had several options of flavors that you would never see in a cocktail, but because of the herb, that it gave you some different, I guess, taste flavor profiles. So I don't worry about that with us.
Now, you mentioned something that I actually wanted to ask you quickly because being a novice in this industry, for the layperson out there, what is the difference between a mocktail and an alt-tail?
I think they're very similar. What I notice with mocktail branding is that they are creating a non-alcoholic version of something that's already out there. Like we have a margarita, a non-alcoholic margarita. I see a lot of daiquiris, non-alcoholic daiquiris in the mocktail space. I see cosmopolitans, the non-alcoholic version. So for me, a mocktail that I've seen is something that has already been put on a menu in an alcoholic version that they have now made in a non-alcoholic version. So, we tried to make it, again, something that you might not have ever seen on a menu in an alcoholic space. I think the other thing is just because I really think that this category needs to evolve. Mm-hmm. Mocktails are great, but like I said, mocktails are pretending. And right. I think it just deserves its own category. I think when people go to the grocery store, when you're planning a party and you have your list of club soda, liquor, beer, milk, juice, alt-tails need to be a separate category mm-hmm. as well, or juice boxes, or whatever it is.
I wanted to ask you this because I inevitably always run across it when I was looking into interviewing you. I looked at typed in alt-tails and all this stuff, and this CBD infused type world, and I personally I have my own thoughts on this, and mm-hmm. I'm going to shelve those for the moment, and just talk about. I was in Colorado last weekend, and cannabis.
They're everywhere.
It is. And I think people can either just put their head in the sand and say, or you can say, well, I'm going to be open-minded, understand this stuff, learn about it. But I just think now you see these things being infused in so many things. Do you see that as a potential opportunity for you guys to look at, or have you kind of drawn the line in the sand and said, well, for now that's not something I'm interested in?
It's not something that I'm personally interested in incorporating with Nope. I think that is a market that is seeing a lot of action. There's a lot of competitors. Right. A lot of people are in that CBD space. And I have friends that are CBD beverage company owners. I have my favorites. I, drink them once in a while. I am not against CBD. I just think for us personally, one of our goals was to be all inclusive. We want the moms to be able to drink it.
Oh yeah.
I didn't even think,
I
want moms to drink it. And then I have friends that are in the military that they can't drink CBD either. Yeah. So that is eliminating so many groups, and they need an option.
Right.
So that's, I don't see us incorporating that ever into our drinks. But that being said, there are a lot of CBD drinks that I do enjoy.
That's interesting you said that, because I hesitated in asking you that question. But the answer was very good, and it's got me thinking as well about having a niche, a specific niche. It's like there's always room for a specialty. I'm in the investment wealth management business. That's what I actually do for a living when I'm not doing this. And we talked about specialization in our industry. Do you just throw out a big net for everybody, or do you just put all your emphasis on a few things when it comes to marketing and target marketing and branding, those type of things? So,
yeah.
You
can't do everything. You really have to pick what you're specializing in and go all in. So that's where we are. I do see the benefits to why people choose CBD. One of the things, I read an article recently that I thought was very interesting, was that the CBD movement is also helping, could help the opioid crisis. If people are in pain and they're taking pain medications and they become addicted, CBD could be an option for some pain relief. So having a history of family members with opioid addiction, that is something that I really like to follow up on, but just not something that we'll include in our drinks. And we were so careful to kind of switch gears to make sure that everybody could drink it, that at one point our formulations actually had actual bitters in every ingredient, because we wanted that bite. But bitters has like 0.002% alcohol. Right. And I reached out to a lot of sober influencers who said, I would not touch bitters for the first 2 to 5 years of my sobriety. So we reformulated everything because we didn't want to exclude the newly sober, because they are the ones who need those drinks the most. They need the alternative.
So interesting you say that, because here in Iowa, when I buy, say, an O'Doul's or a Heineken Zero, I get ID'd. They ID me. Mm-hmm. And I have no problem with that. I mean, it doesn't bother me, but I always think it's interesting because I look on the back of some of these and it's 0.0025,
Yes.
And you are actually 0%, right?
0. Yep.
Yeah. So this begs this dumb question out of me, but so you don't have any restrictions with people buying this online from a different, have any age restrictions? I mean, anybody any age can buy this?
No, my kids drink it for special occasions. There's nothing at all that could, no, anybody can buy it.
Yeah, well, I'm just, I'm very happy that I entertained this conversation, because my friends back here now are following you on social media. They made some posts the other day and they were so excited. They had the Nope cans all around all their cheese and cracker tray they made. And
we used those pictures too. They were great. I was jealous that I wanted to be there.
And they were so excited. And I guess it's somehow we can make the romance with this a little more healthier, as opposed to watching a Super Bowl ad and showing all these alcohol commercials, and people don't see the darkness behind that. They don't see all the problems that come with that. And here you can have these beverages and not have the collateral damage with relationships and poor health, and you don't wake up hungover. There's some very rewarding aspects of this industry that you're in that I think people that are looking at options should definitely try.
And I think there was, I don't want to say who because I can't remember, there was a non-alcoholic beer commercial during the Super Bowl this year.
I think there was.
I need to go back and look.
I think you're right, because I was talking to a friend about this exploding business in the NA space, and then we saw, I think it could have been Heineken. It was one of the, obviously, Super Bowl, so it was a big player.
Right.
But so where do you see you in, say, I want to say 5 years, but that nowadays seems so long. I mean, where do you see you? Where do you see you in 3 years?
For Nope, I would love to see us in Whole Foods and Kroger and Target. I would love to see us have a lot of competition, because I just, it's nice to be one of the first in this space, but we're also very mission driven and want to support those making healthier decisions. So I really embrace every time I see another competitor or somebody else who's making something similar. So yeah, I would like us to be dominating the world of beverage with the non-alcoholic category.
That's awesome.
But I would really like us to be in some of those big box stores and just have people grab us as their staple when they're planning a party. We need the seltzers. We need, we're not excluding beer and wine as, party options, but just to make sure that people are giving their friends and family those other options as well.
And really, that's
so very mainstream.
To me, it comes down to choices, and that's the name of my nonprofit, is called the Choices Network. And I didn't want to make it an anti-alcohol, sober living type organization, because I'm not anti-alcohol at all. I choose not to drink. And what other people choose to do, as long as it doesn't interfere with me, like getting behind the wheel or, breaking into my house or something, as long as what they do doesn't interfere with me, then that's their choice. But the moment that crosses over and drags me in, then I have to get involved. And for those people watching this that are new to my story, real briefly, in my life, I had a personal event happen. October 4th, 2016, our oldest son, Seth, was found in a hotel room, overdosed from heroin laced with fentanyl. And on that moment, my life pivoted. It took a change. It went downhill immediately for about a year. Considered options of possibly joining Seth. Fortunately, I didn't. But I was battling alcohol addiction myself, trying to run a business, keep a marriage together, raise children. So I get pulled in the direction of people that have similar stories. And one of the beauties with social media, as much as I hate it, is I'm meeting people that have similar stories. And so I think of, for me, Beth Ann, all these options, Nope, all the other options that people have, kind of coping mechanisms to deal with some of their addictions. I don't think we can have too many. I don't think it's possible to give an alcoholic, and this is where if I'm watching you have a conversation with someone on social media and they're finding things to maybe nitpick, and I'm like, hey, you know what? There's plenty of room at the table for all of us to eat,
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the approach I take. So I will occasionally get in some healthy conversations when people start debating me on, is addiction a disease? Is addiction a choice? I'm like, well, I guess does it matter if you pick one of them to believe in and you stop drinking? Does it matter? If I'm an alcoholic and I have alcohol parents, alcoholic grandparents, and I'm predisposed to be an alcoholic, it doesn't mean I'm predetermined to be an alcoholic. I may have the DNA, but I don't have to have 20 beers,
Right.
I had a good friend of mine, Daniel Allison. He goes on by The Average Dude on LinkedIn. And he was a guest on my podcast a few episodes ago. And he brought a really neat idea to the table about an alcoholic that's struggling with their addiction. it's a set of many choices. You're at your house, you think about having a beer or a beverage, and you choose at that moment to get up out of the couch. Well, then you also choose to walk to the refrigerator. You also choose to open the door. You also choose to grab the beer out. So it's not just going from zero to waking up the next morning blacking out. It's a series of just small choices. And that to me really resonated with me for people like your husband, Bart, and family members that I have that are struggling with this, is don't look at this as going from zero all the way up to here and being, being solving the problem of addiction. It's a series of choices. So this is a choice. This is one of the little steps along the way. It's not going to make an alcoholic stop drinking, but it's just one little tiny choice you can make in that given day. Instead of grabbing a wine, I call them wine coolers because that was I grew up with, but instead of grabbing an alcoholic beverage, grab a Nope. And that's one little battle. That's one battle that you won at that one moment,
Right. Yeah, I struggled with that, with the choice versus addiction for a long time with Bart, because I would ask him, why did you choose to go into the bar? Why did you choose to stop at the liquor store on the way home from work? But I think because of the addiction, that controls the choice. So he's not thinking clearly. He's thinking as an addict.
Right.
And it's not, there's an underlying problem of why he's making those choices. So it's not just abstaining from the bad decision. It's getting deeper inside to figure out why he's choosing that path. So there's a lot of therapy involved, instead of just teaching them how to say, no, I'm not going to do this, giving you the strategies and the coping mechanisms to kind of set yourself up for success at a party. You've also have to deal with the internal struggle of why are you going to this instead of taking a jog?
Right. Right. Why choose that over something else? And when I wrote my book, this one's for you, An Inspirational Journey Through Addiction, Death, and Meaning, I was just really driven by trying to figure out why Seth at 15 or 16 and then died at 23. What was the choices that my friend Daniel talked about? The little, do I smoke a joint today or do I not? That one little choice, didn't cause him to die from a heroin overdose, but it definitely paved the road and gave him more doors he's cracking each day. So for me, I'm kind of heading towards the choice mindset and not saying addiction isn't a disease. People are misquoting me when they hear me talk. I'm not saying it's not a disease. I'll give you that. You're an addict. You want to tell yourself you're cursed. That's up to you. But you don't have to have 20 beers. I mean, there's something in between your belief structure that you're an addict and why you wake up blacking out that night. What happens in between where you start losing all that ability to say no? And all you got to do is sever one of those decisions. You don't have to win them all. Just sever one. You can grab the beer out of the fridge. Just don't open it. And so I'm constantly trying to learn, and I don't have any answers for people. But I was speaking one time to a group of people, and I said, you're all in here for a reason. You're battling alcohol and substance abuse. I'm not going to tell you how to get over it, or I'll tell you what to do, but I'm going to tell you what not to do.
Right.
You got to stop these destructive behaviors that you're doing. You can do these other things that you want to do, but the problem is if you're already depressed, you're already stuck in your house because of COVID, you're having a tough marriage, having alcohol isn't going to increase your well-being. It's just not. So again, I really applaud what you're doing, and I'm excited to just follow the success you've had just since I met you. It looks like on social media your activity's been through the roof.
Yeah, so we started December 16th.
Oh wow.
And, we have 1,400 followers, which I know is small potatoes for some people, but for us, that was a lot of growth in a month. So, and we hope to keep continuing that. But social media has been great for several reasons, and really caught me off guard because it's a way to get your product out there, your mission out there, and people to buy you. But what I'm learning is that people really want to find a product that they can drink, but they want to share the story as to why they need that product. So I will spend an hour laying in bed at night going through my DMs because people will say, I'm 20 days sober and I'm really struggling. I'm really glad I found this. I'm going to order it tonight. And then I'll have other people say, I'm 18 years sober, and they just really want to talk about their story. And that's been a pleasant surprise. I really like that part of this.
I have to imagine, like me, you get a lot of people that reach out to you privately that each time, I almost didn't write my book a number of times, as I assume you probably almost didn't start Nope a number of times. And then I reach out, someone emails me late at night, hey, Jeff, read your book, my brother died of an opioid overdose, I have other family members. And I'm like, it's worth it. As much as I didn't want to do this
Definitely.
stuff, as much as it took a lot of my life away from me, what I lost, I gained in perspective and awareness and all these things. So I think, for people that are making that decision and they're contemplating ways that they can enjoy a psychological alcoholic beverage, because that's really for me. That's really for me when I open up any type of these things. To me, I just kind of trick my brain that I'm having a beer or I'm having a margarita, and I just don't have to have one element, one ingredient, and that's the alcohol. Other than that, I'm drinking an alcoholic beverage just without the alcohol. I'm
Right.
not that smart, so I can trick my brain to believe these things. I don't know. I think in my passion is helping people with addiction, opioid overdoses, suicide, those things all for me. And for you, your ultimate product that you have is a extra or additional arrow in the quiver for people that are battling these things. The numbers of 150,000 people a year died last year of suicide, alcohol abuse, and overdose. That's insane. And it's going in one direction. It's not going this way. So every one Bart or Jeff Johnston or the next person that watches this that says, you know what, today's the day. I've been fighting this for long enough, and I see two people here that have had traumatic events happen in their lives, and you're running with Nope, I'm running with Living Undeterred, and we're both taking this tragedy that has happened, and we've made something out of it, and there's got to be people watching this today to be inspired by what you're doing, and that's why I wanted you to get in here. So do you plan on doing a book? Do you plan on doing things that would allow you maybe not to spend so much time on product development and marketing, but more on your passion of trying to help people battling alcohol and substance abuse?
I mean, that is something that I have talked to friends who have written books, friends that have heard, the very ugly parts of my story. And it is something that I think eventually I would like to tackle. I have a 30-page book proposal already completed. I think I would really like to establish Nope first.
Right. Right.
And then I would like to do that for several reasons, and I think it could be done in tandem with Nope. But the stigma of helping with your mental health and the stigma of drinking, I think could really be tackled and with both of those. But it's not something that I'm going to pursue even in the next year because we're such a new company, we're a startup. So I think that will come in time. You met Bart, and
Yep.
the story is about Bart and divorce and our marriage. So I also want to be very mindful and considerate of where he stands with that story being out there.
Well, I know you in a short amount of time that you wouldn't be talking about this if Bart didn't give you the okay. And maybe someday I can drag him on the on the show and talk to him. But I always like to talk to people that have conquered some of these things, at least, for the time being, because you never really win the battle of sobriety.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to win the day,
Yes.
And that's been my mindset. People always ask me, how many days sober are you? And I'm like, I don't keep score. I just know I'm not drinking right now.
Mm-hmm.
I am choosing not to drink today. Let me ask you a question. Somebody comes in, Beth Ann, here's $10 million. We're gonna buy Nope. And you can give money to your main charity that pulls at you. Where if you had the disposable income, if Nope takes off, where do you think you'd put your resources in regards to philanthropic desires or charitable interests that you have? And I before you answer that, I know that the autism thing we haven't spent a lot of time about. I have friends that have autistic children. I know it's a very, I mean, boy, talk about an intense angle in any relationship. But are those type of things that you've thought about? If you did have that big check and you had a chance to jump into some charities, and what have you thought about?
Absolutely. I think about that all the time. I used to think about it specifically with autism because I used to do a lot of guest speaking at fundraisers for early detection in autism.
Right.
So I used to say all the time, if I was to hit the lottery, that's where my money was going. Right. And now, we're here with alcoholism. One personal story, and I really don't know. I know I want to do something. I need to research more, and I want to be very deliberate in how I tackle this. Right. But it's something that I think about all the time. And on a personal story, I have two brothers that are addicted to opioids, and one came and stayed with me. He kind of dried out and checked into a rehab, checked himself right back out because he's older than 18.
Yeah.
A lot of issues there, driving around Baltimore trying to find him in seedy neighborhoods. Long story short, 2 weeks later, he wanted to give it another try. He comes to my house, detoxes, and we bring him to the rehab. The rehab calls and says he can't stay here because he's clean and insurance won't cover it. So they kicked him out. And then he OD'd that night. So that, I don't know how we're going to approach it, but that is something that I think really it needs dealt with. I don't know. It just infuriated me. It made me very sad. I couldn't believe that this boy was in there trying to do a good thing. He went in there sober, and they said, if he would have had something in his system, he could have stayed and had it completely paid for. And he can't afford to have, $17,000 a day in treatment. So he didn't get the treatment that he needed.
I'm just thinking, because I have so many different ways to respond to what you just said. And in my personal situation with Seth, we had a hard time getting him in at the Area Substance Abuse Council. And I'm a board member now of ASAC. And we talk about what you just talked about. Our beds are full. We don't have a lot of room there to bring in people. And when someone just gets out of, they're okay to go on their own, we got to get them out and get the next person in that's in worse shape. So that there's no question that there's a problem right there. And I think having this conversation, hopefully somebody watching this is in the addiction, recovery, rehab, all that industry, can start putting like-minded people together to figure out solutions where that doesn't happen to your brother. He gets not kicked out, but pretty much kicked out. And then that night he overdoses. Maybe if that wouldn't have been that night, it would have been the next night. Who knows? But the fact is that's the definition of an issue or a problem, that we're too smart of a society. We're too passionate. We're too caring. We need to have some type of a way to deal with this, or at least at worst case scenario, talk about it. And maybe somebody watching this will reach out to either you or me and say, hey, Beth Ann, I've been thinking the same thing. My son checked out, and that night he died. And this is what I did. This is what, and that's, I'm hoping that happens from you and I talking about this. It has to happen.
And what I find with the rehabilitation centers too, a lot of those employees are people who have gone through this process themselves.
Yep.
It is so close to their hearts, and they understand it. So I know, I'm very clear what I know and what I don't know. So I don't know enough about it. So reaching out, I've established so many relationships now with rehab employees because of my brothers. I would like to include those kinds of workers in the conversation, because I'd love to say, if somebody gave you this money, what do you see the need being? What would you do with it? Because what I would do with it, it may not be what they need, but I definitely think about that all the time, whether it's a donation or part of the proceeds from Nope, 10 cents a can goes here or there. Something will be done. We will definitely go down that avenue.
Yeah, I have no doubt that you will come up with something, as I have on my journey as well. And I have to be honest with you, being driven by non-financial reasons is a liberating way to run a business. And I know right now, there's no question you'll accept donations. I mean, you definitely, working capital for any startup is the lifeblood. However, you're driven by more than just the financial reasons. And if you do a really good job and you have a good product and people really fall in love with your story, which I have to imagine they will, I think the good things will happen. The money will come eventually. I mean, I could give you so many examples of businesses that started off on some type of a passion like this. And then someone's like, wow, how'd you come up with this? Well, how come someone didn't come up with it? I mean, there's been alcoholism and addiction around for a long time. Why did it take 2020 for this to come to fruition,
Exactly. I agree.
So, I guess when you're looking at future projects that you're doing, do you have any plans of doing maybe presentations with Rotary clubs and groups like that, where you can, now the initial inclination is, well, she's here trying to sell a non-alcoholic product, but I think if you peel back that layer, you'll see the story behind what you have built. And I think it's a tremendous story. And I know tremendous isn't a good word. It's an inspiring story that you're able to do what you've done, out of, a lot of people probably just would have turned into alcoholics themselves, Beth Ann,
I just want to make sure I'm answering the question right. So
I'm not sure I asked a question.
Not what I want to do with Note, but how I want to maybe share the story and how you can turn it around and take lemons and make lemonade.
Yeah.
Is that?
No, actually, it's take lemons and make rosemary vanilla lemonade.
Lemonade, right. Yes, I mean, that's another part of the story, and another reason why I would love Bart to get to that point and us even possibly do it together, because I think when you are really in it and you haven't yourself or haven't had your loved one go through the rehabilitation part and recovery parts, you can't think that far ahead. And I think you compare to, I think people looked at us and thought they have a beautiful home, they have a beautiful family. What could possibly be wrong in that family? And really, it was very dark and violent at times and scary. So for me, I would like to share that story to take away the stigma and to show them that that doesn't have to be the way, that doesn't have to be your life forever. And these are the steps I took. If you and they might not be the steps that somebody else takes, but just to show somebody that there is a different ending and that you don't have to be in that hamster wheel.
And it is kind of an interesting dynamic where you have, your emphasis is on the alcohol side, but the mental health, depression, all these things, they're all intertwined at the hip,
Definitely.
So if you can help people solve one issue, say alcoholism, then they can work at their depression. I have a friend of mine that reached out to me lately talking about his, I wouldn't say suicidal ideation, but suicides in his family. And he's very concerned about it. He's a teenager. And he's concerned of why these relatives killed themselves. So he's harboring some guilt. And now he's thinking, well, maybe it's in my DNA. You know, two
Right.
relatives have killed themselves, and he's 18. And he talked about his issue with always having to save people, and his job is to take care of people. And I said, no, your job is to take care of you, dude, because if you're on an airplane and the oxygen tank comes down or the oxygen mask comes down, the first thing they say is put it on your face first and then help others.
Mm-hmm.
So I think sometimes we run around trying to help other people all day long. At the end of the day, we really have to work on our own mental health, our own alcoholism, our own addictions that we have, unhealthy relationships, things that pull our energy away from helping ourselves before we can go be good moms, good dads, good husbands, good wives, you know, good business owners. You got to take care of yourself first. And I think as a society, we're not reminded that frequently enough. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. I think I'm not excluding dads, but you hear that with moms all the time, that they don't take care of themselves, and then you can't take care of your family. I have a story that used to just tear me apart. Was I have 5 children. I was
Right.
pregnant with my 5th. My 4th was just a toddler, and you get so excited to hear their first words, "Mama, Dad, please." And he looked at me one day with so much excitement because he was stringing his first set of words together, and it was "Mama sad." And
Oh,
Mama
wow.
was always sad because
Wow.
of what we were going through. So that was, I mean, that just ripped me apart, and then made me know that if I didn't take care of myself, how much damage and how it was molding what my children were going to grow up to be. So it's so important for you to take care of yourself. And I could see on the mom side why you think you want to take care of everybody else. But if you don't take care of yourself first, you're no good to anyone else.
Right. And you're definitely no good to anybody if you're dead, or if you're drunk all the time. And, you know, I go back and look at, you know, when my son died, I thought to myself, and I actually write about this in the book. I have a chapter called 2 Roads, where I told the boys, and this was actually the day he died. I sat him down the couch and I said, you know, boys, there's 2 roads we can go down now. We can go down a road of anger, despair, and hatred, and we'll become alcoholics and addicts ourselves. Or we can use this as the greatest single motivating event in our life to make our lives better, but also the people around us. I'm on the second road. You guys can join me. And I did get some advice from my dad, a retired doctor, because he's dealt with death so much. And I didn't rehearse it, but it came off kind of that fluid. And man, from that moment, the boys have been on that road. Roman and Ian have just done some absolutely heroic things at that age. You know, kids dealing with adult problems, you know. And we shouldn't have to ask our children to do that. But in my case, having that happened, you know, it just kind of got me into all these discovery modes and learning modes. And so this whole journey's been awesome. But let me do this. We're getting close to an hour, and that's what I promised you. What would be some ways people can reach out to you if they want to private contact you? You don't have to give your cell phone out, but I mean on LinkedIn and stuff. You know, how can people reach you on a personal level, and then what's a good way to just, you know, learn more about Nope?
So on a personal level, I mean, people have been following us on Instagram. I have my own account. I have the Nope account. And when they direct message us, especially if it's something personal and they want to talk about it, I always will send them an email address. Right now, our email address is hello@drinknope.com. But that just seems so, it's not warm enough. So I will, once I get the message and they say, like, I'm struggling with this or that, then I always take it to my personal email. And I've had even phone calls with them and given my cell phone number. So that's how I take care of that. I can't be too busy to talk to anybody about what they're struggling with, or what maybe their loved one is struggling with. And then as far as reaching out to Nope through social media, if you go onto our webpage at drinknope.com, or if you go on to drinknope at Instagram, there's different ways to connect with us. And I don't like to go a few hours without connecting to somebody right away.
Well, I can say that in the short amount of time that I've been kind of part of the Nope family, that you have a very unique, I think it's going to make you very successful in what you're doing, is that you have a very unique culture. And when I kind of jumped into the Nope world and watched what you were doing and got into your sites and stuff, I just see it's almost like not a business. It's almost like you feel like you're part of a family. And
yeah.
And I'm not sure if that was designed on your part, or if it's just that's how you are, that you just embrace everybody like they're part of your family. But I really will tell you hit a home run with that, Beth Ann. I just think there's something about there's something, I can't find a word for it, but there's something about your brand that I can just see it's going to be a home run. And if you can do that with a great product, man, I want to buy stock in your company.
Okay.
I say that honestly. I really sincerely say, and I guess I can't be honest, because in the financial planning business, I could get in trouble with FINRA if I promote a stock on the air. So, but no, I just think you hit a home run with this. I think you have a beautiful thing going. I think the way you're vulnerable adds the cement to what you're doing, the glue to keep this together. Keep working on the product, fine tuning it, getting it. I don't want to say tastier, because it's already at maximum taste for me. But you're doing great things, and I think people watching this, are going to really hopefully reach out to you and take advantage of what you're offering for them, an opportunity for them to deal with some of these things and enjoy the ride. I mean, it's been fun watching you grow this thing. I've been really enjoying it. I'm very honored that you were able to join me today.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy that you asked. I feel honored to get to do this with you. It was so fun to meet you on LinkedIn, and I felt like it was just automatic that we had to do this.
Yeah.
So thank you for having us.
I've got this corny little thing now I say, drink Nope or go home.
Yep.
So, well, with that, I thank you again. I think your honesty, your authenticity, your fact of being humble, I applaud Bart. Hopefully that your kids can get active in your business someday. That would be great.
Oh, they already are. They are. Sometimes I think they think that they are the president and founder, and I'm just supposed to do what they say. But I'm looking
That's
at
awesome.
my stock right now. They'd like to box things and ship them out. They go to the warehouse with me every week to get new products. They're very, very involved.
Yeah. So it
from
is
the beginning.
It is a family. It is a culture, and you're doing great. And hopefully I can, I can help out along the way. And just having you here today has been an honor. So with that, I do want to remind everybody to drink Nope or go home. However, also, no matter what you're going through, any type of adversity you have, there's always somebody that has it worse than you. That's one thing that makes me realize that where I'm at, I have 2 of my 3 boys still with me. I know a gentleman, Steve Grant, that lost his only 2 boys to heroin. So, as tragic as we lost Seth, I have Ian and Roman. I'm a lucky guy from that standpoint. Steve lost his only 2. So, I know your life's tough. Things are hard. I'm not telling people to get over it. But having alcohol, drugs, lying, all these things are negative habits that will self-destruct, and you're not going to increase your well-being. So, Beth Ann, thanks a lot. I'm going to remind everybody to live undeterred and fight through this stuff. There is always a brighter day ahead. All my blogs, which post on Wednesdays, are available at livingundeterred.com, and the podcasts are on Fridays. And if people want to follow me and follow Beth Ann on her social media and share us and like us, that would be awesome. I do get quite a bit of requests about the book. This is my shameless plug. That's my book. That's our son who passed away. That's an actual real rainbow. He had a great sense of humor. I wish he was here with me, but he is with me, just not physically. And so with that, Beth Ann, take care. Thanks a lot. Enjoyed our conversation, and I'm sure our paths will cross again.
Good. Thank you. Thanks so much, Jeff. I appreciate it. It was nice to be here today.